So in this next lesson, Anthony,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about preexistence, or the
Okay.
lack of it. A lot of
Yeah.
people think that Jesus, again, some of our JW friends, that he was that wisdom back in Proverbs. We hear other people talk about him being the rock that was following them. If you could address some of those
Yes.
verses that people typically try to use for that preexistence here, and
Yes.
comment again on, we talked about if he's a man, a human being, you really can't preexist your
Yes.
beginning.
Well, yes, it's exactly right. First thing to ask yourself, what in the world do you even mean by pre-existing yourself? I did mention earlier that there's a very good Greek word about pre-existence. It never applied to Jesus, never applied to human beings in the Bible. There's a perfectly good reason for them not talking about so-called pre-existence, because they didn't believe it. They knew that every human being must begin in the womb of Mary, and that's what Luke and Matthew particularly really work hard at giving us. So having said that, we know that you cannot pre-exist yourself. And Jesus then is certainly like the rock. He said that. Paul said, like the rock that followed them was Messiah. I get it. But in that very same passage, Paul says, I'm speaking in types here. In the Greek word is typikos. I mean that the rock that followed them in the wilderness in the Old Testament times was a type. Paul uses the word typically, says, I'm speaking that of that event as a type, as a pattern, as an illustration of Jesus. So Jesus is certainly that rock. Jesus is certainly the wisdom of God. But wisdom is a woman in the Old Testament. And she, along with prudence, is there. So you might say, well, if Jesus is wisdom, who is prudence? Again, wisdom is a personification, and a personification is not a person. God's wisdom is being personified. It's being spoken of as though it were a person, but it's not. That's true of wisdom. And Jesus then is what wisdom became. God expressed himself by having a human being born supernaturally who is the exact expression of his Father. Whatever the Father thinks, Jesus thinks. He perfectly does the will of his Father. So he is what wisdom became, but not one-to-one equal as a person to a pre-existing wisdom who doesn't exist. There is no such thing as a person called wisdom until, of course, Jesus is actually there in history. Then you can say he's walking wisdom. He's expressive of the wisdom of God, as in John 1:1, in the beginning was wisdom. And that wisdom then became a human being, just like the water turned into wine. It wasn't wine when it was water. The wisdom is the ideal of God, the planning, the thinking of God. And that wonderful plan and wisdom, that idea, God's great concept, his wisdom, finally showed up in a human being who walked around. That sort of pre-existence is fine. But once you say that Jesus as a person, as a human being, pre-existed, then you've got a human being in heaven before he's born. And then you really get into trouble. That would be a very strange idea, because we know that whoever Jesus is, he cannot be an angel. You know why? Because in Hebrews it says God never, ever, ever said to an angel. He never said that to an angel. What did he not say to an angel? He never said, you're my begotten, procreated son. That's not true of an angel. So any Jehovah's Witnesses who say that Jesus was an angel are badly mistaken in terms of that particular verse in Hebrews. To no angel did God ever, ever, ever say at any time, whatever, ever in history. He never said, you're my procreated son. Therefore, Jesus cannot be an angel. He cannot be God, because God cannot die. And he cannot be an angel, because God never said that about an angel. We're narrowing the field, it seems to me. What if he's actually a superhuman being, the Son of Man? That might work well.
Right. And I would think too, when he was talking to his friends and preaching to people, he
Yeah,
would have said, our fathers, when they were in the desert, I was that
yeah.
rock there. I was there with them. He would have let them know if this is something that was true.
Of course he would. It's too difficult. You can reassure your children that Jesus was human because he came from the womb of his mother by miracle, not just an average man, heaven forbid. He's a unique human being. But don't ever say he's God, because you're saying that Jesus died and God cannot die.